Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Charine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurinmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Shrishtam Manumapi Shachiputram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajamurupuring Maturing Goshtavartim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Guru Tamnatos Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajiva Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tina Smarane Hoy Vigna Vinashan Anaya Shri Hoy Najavan Chita Puran Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome all visitors to Kurmagram. You can see the natural scenic beauty. The purpose of this community is simple living and high thinking. Present society is very complex living, but no high thinking about the higher values of life. Life is big competition, big struggle, just from the very beginning. But here we're looking to cooperation rather than competition. We're living as simply as possible with some allowances for modern civilization. For instance, I'm speaking with the assistance of a microphone, but we want to keep things simple so that we don't have so many encumbrances. And high thinking means to understand our spiritual nature and to act on that platform. The whole Bhagavad-gita was spoken by Lord Krishna to raise Arjuna's consciousness from low consciousness to high consciousness. High consciousness begins by understanding that we are all spiritual beings. We have so many students here. Probably you're all mostly in the engineering line, is it? What else? Medical. Oh, medical is a step, it's a notch up above engineering. So medical means you're studying the body. First thing you have to learn the Latin names of every single little bone in the body. But in all these almost 20 years that you've been studying, did anyone ever tell you that you're not the body? Not in the school or the college, but that is the very first teaching of Bhagavad-gita. And it makes sense. In your medical studies, can they tell you what is the intrinsic difference between a dead body and a living body? Dead body means everything stopped. On if you see the graph, it's flat. The brain impulse is flat. Pulse, nothing there. Heartbeat, nothing there. Respiration stopped. But what is the vital factor that makes the difference between a living body and a dead body. The soul, the presence or absence of the soul. But they don't teach you that in medical school. They presume that life is a product of matter. You say the difference is that the presence of the soul, but you didn't learn that in your academic studies. You know that because you were raised in a Hindu environment. You have some basic spiritual knowledge. But modern education avoids this most essential knowledge. If we don't understand that we are by nature spiritual beings, that means we don't know who we are. That's called madness, or it's a symptom of a severe mental lacking. Someone who doesn't know who they are is either insane or he's suffering from a severe case of amnesia. If you ask someone who they are, they should be able to identify themselves. For instance, you might say, my name is Ramachandra Naidu, for instance, and I was born in Srikakulam 27 years ago. And there's so many other factors you can say. My father has his own business, and I'm a medical student. Was 27, now it's a bit old to be a medical student. We have to be postgraduate, super specialist. But these identifications are temporary. If you say, my name is Ramachandra Naidu, well, where were you, if you're 27 years old, where were you 30 years ago? That identity didn't exist. But we all existed before we came in these bodies, and we will continue to exist after the body dies. Therefore, our real identity is not the body. Anything difficult to understand? But no one's teaching this. It's the most important thing we have to learn. We spend the whole of our life acting as if we are the body. And the most important thing I have to do is to work hard so I can support the body. But no one teaches how to live with the understanding that I am an eternal living being. So although in Kurmagram, the way of life might be considered somewhat primitive, without all the accoutrements of modern civilized life. But we say that modern life is, from the spiritual perspective, backward and primitive, because we're so much concerned with this temporary life that we forget the real purpose of life, which is to understand our spiritual nature. There are so many discoveries, just like in medical science. The level of medical science is more advanced than it was 100 or 200 years ago. What was it like trying to do surgeries before anesthesia? And even anesthesia is a very precise science now. You have to take the body weight, the age, and so many factors you have to consider. Now we have robotic surgeons. So the science of medicine is in many ways more advanced than it was. And to come to this level has required a huge amount of research by highly intelligent and educated people. But why are not the highly intelligent and educated people dealing with this question? What happens after death? And how should we live in this life to prepare for life after death? In this regard, there is one essential teaching of Lord Krishna. This is not in Bhagavad-gita. This is in Uddhava-gita from Srimad Bhagavatam. Labdva sudurlabam idang bahusambhavante manusham artadam anityam apihadhira turnam yateta napateta numritya yavan nisrayasaya vishaya kalu sarvatasyat. Which means that human life is rarely obtained. How many cells are there in an average human body? Who can say? 40,000 million. They're all living, right? Well, some are dead in the body, but they're all living at some point. So that means, you're saying the word jivan, that means living. So jiva is the, every living being means that there's a jiva there, and human life is very, very rare. We get this human life after many, many births. Can you understand what I'm saying? Can the flies flying around here understand what I'm saying? Can the snakes in the field understand what I'm saying? Can the birds in the sky understand? Only in human life do we have sufficient intelligence to even think about the nature of the Atma. So Lord Krishna says we have attained this human life after many, many births. And this human life is very valuable. How valuable is the human body? What's the human body made up of? A lot of water in there, hydrogen, oxygen, not very valuable. A lot of carbon and nitrogen, not very valuable. And in modern life, we probably have lots of heavy metal, traces of heavy metals in our system. So if we take the bodily ingredients, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, and so many other trace elements, it won't be very valuable. You won't get a lot of money if you want to break it down and sell it. So why is human life valuable? Because only in human life can we inquire into the nature of ultimate reality. However, we don't have much time. You're here young men. Before long, you'll be an old man. Then you'll be a dead man. Then you'll be a young what? Fish, or spider, or bird, or maybe human. The young man of today is the old man of tomorrow. The old man of today is the young man of tomorrow. So human life is temporary, but it's very valuable because it gives us the opportunity to inquire into the absolute truth. Therefore, Krishna used the word dhira, same word he uses in the beginning of Bhagavad-gita. We should be very sober-minded in considering how we live our life. And we should, knowing that we're going to die, we should endeavor to do what is necessary before we die, that we don't get born again. Now, you may think, oh, that's good. Well, when I'm old, I'll do that. But Krishna says, Turnam yateta. We should immediately endeavor for this. No one lives long. And it's not only that old men die, plenty of young people die also. So we should start now on our spiritual quest. And if you think, well, there are so many things to enjoy, parties and discos, I think medical students, they don't have much opportunity to enjoy these things. Medical students means eat, sleep, study, and not much else in their life. So anyway, the point is that we should use human life for our highest benefit. In your life, you will see many deaths. Maybe you already saw many deaths, even as medical students. Before you die, do whatever you have to do so that you don't get born again. That is the message of Kurmagram. Devotees here have chosen to live like this, very simply, materially, so that they can go up spiritually. Hare Krishna. That's a brief introduction to what we're doing here. Do any of you have any questions? What do you think about out-of-body experiences? There are so many cases being recorded nowadays of people who are clinically dead or under deep anesthesia and who come out of the soul comes out of the body and they can see everything around and they explain it afterwards. There's a question here.
What to do to suppress desires?
We don't recommend trying to suppress desires. What does that mean? You should just go out and whatever you feel like doing, you do it. But rather we should purify desire. Desire is concomitant with life. And some spiritualists say you should stop all desires. That's very, very difficult to do. And even to desire to stop desiring is a desire. So our process in bhakti yoga is to purify desire. If you like nice food, offer it to Krishna and take it as Krishna's prasadam. If you like music, anyone here who does not like music, Sangita, yeah, everyone likes, but instead of this hellish rock and roll music, you chant the glories of Krishna. Purify desire. Then all our lower desires will automatically vanish. Yeah, someone else?
He's asking about in the presence of Lord, they are sacrificing animals. How proper it is, whether it is proper or not.
Killing animals is never good. The Vedic process of sacrifice is to regulate that. Generally, we recommend don't kill any animal. You cannot give life, so you have no right to take life. However, there will always be some people in human society who want to eat meat. So instead of eating meat from slaughterhouses and eating meat every day, there's a Vedic system in which a certain kind of animal is sacrificed to Bhadrakali or similar deity, and then the meat is distributed to the participants. That is not meant to encourage meat eating, but to regulate it. And there are also, in previous times, Gomedha Yagya, Ashvamedha Yagya, for sacrificing cows and horses. That is not exactly killing, because the Brahmanas at that time could give new life to the animals. By mantra they could do. But in general, it's better not to kill animals. But better than slaughterhouse meat is to take from Vedic sacrifice. Then?
What is the difference between death and sudden death? Why sudden deaths are happened?
Generally, sudden death by murder or accident is understood to be indicative of some bad karma. Any form of violent death is a sign of some bad karmic reaction. If someone dies suddenly and peacefully, that's good. If they're older, so they don't have prolonged suffering before death. Everything is going on. Everyone's life is going on under the direction of Paramatma.
How to utilize our earnings properly?
Earnings have to be spent for family maintenance. If you have extra money, then you should give charity. Charity is best given to devotees of Krishna, because devotees of Krishna are doing the best welfare activities, teaching people how they can get the highest benefit of life. Generally, people like to give charity for feeding hungry people or opening schools or hospitals, but these only give temporary benefit. By teaching Krishna consciousness, there is permanent benefit. So you can give charity for furthering the work of spreading Krishna consciousness.
So, in order to always have the desire to attain Supreme Personality of Godhead, what we have to do to always nourish that desire to attain God?
The two main things are sadhana and satsanga. You're talking about nourishing the desire to attain God. So just like food nourishes the body, we need sadhana to nourish our spiritual life. And we need satsanga, association of devotees, to help keep us focused. Any questions from the students?
So, how to cross this Arishat Vargas?
The what?
Arishat, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. How to
Shadripu.
overcome
What's the word you used?
Arishat Varga.
Yeah, well, the first one is karma, desire. So that question is already answered. Instead of trying to stop karma, we engage karma in the service of Krishna. Instead of I want nice food, we should think I want to offer nice food to Krishna. Instead of thinking I want to hear nice music, we should think how to make music for the pleasure of Krishna. Similarly, Krodh, we should be angry at ourselves for not being for being so dull-headed and not Krishna conscious, and we should direct anger against those who are enemies of God consciousness. Just like Hanuman, he was angry, but he is glorified for that anger. Lobh, instead of wanting to get more and more money, we should think how to get more and more bhakti. How we should be greedy to get the association of devotees. Moha, we're all entranced by the attraction of the material energy. But instead, if we are entranced by the beauty of Krishna, that is the proper utilization of moha. Instead of being proud, I am so great, we should take pride in being allowed as a member of the Vaishnava Sangha, that kind of pride. That is purified pride. As far as Matsarya, envy is concerned, there is no place for that in spiritual consciousness. Any question from the students?
Currently in the society, there is a lot of friction between Shaivas and Vaishnavas. So can we solve it?
Previously, there was much more. Now, there's not much, because no one's serious about being a Vaishnava or a Shaiva. So that will continue. But we should understand for our own highest benefit which path we should follow. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. All right, we'll take one or two more questions.
What steps we have to take so that we can concentrate more on studies?
Well, when I was studying at school, I couldn't concentrate because I thought, what's the point of all this? This whole education is just to push me into some system where I work all my life for what? But later, when I came to study Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, then I became very enthusiastic to study. So if you're enthused by what you're studying, you won't need to ask, how can I focus? I don't know how you can get enthused about studying blood and plasma and medicines. I can tell you how to get enthused about studying Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam.
భగవద్గీత భాగవతం చదవడానికి ఎలా ఉత్సాహాన్ని పొందాలో నేను మీకు చెప్పగలను.
If you see any of your fellow students really struggling, you should take note and try and help them. Because the pressure of medical studies is so much that the suicide is quite common among students in India, especially medical students. If it gets too much for you, come and spend a few days here and unwind.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
From our Sri Vaishnava friend here.
It is said, Sharira Madhyam Kalu Dharma Sadhanam, because we are students. So how can we satisfy all these dharmas? Like a good son of a father and a good student to a teacher. So how can we, at the same time, as a good student also, how can we do all these things simultaneously?
It becomes difficult in the present age because the seniors are emphasizing an imbalanced way of life. Previously, the parents and the teachers, they themselves would live a life based on dharma, and they would naturally impart this to the youth. But at the present time, the emphasis is highly materialistic. And the parents, they still teach the children, you should follow the parents. But in many cases, the parents don't do their duty as parents by teaching spiritual knowledge, giving spiritual values to their children. And they want to push the children into just study, 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 so you can earn lots of money. So in a situation where it's already imbalanced, how to find the proper balance becomes a difficult proposition. But you should know that your first duty is to Bhagavan. Different parents you get in every birth, but Bhagavan is always Bhagavan. Okay, I'll finish there.
Can I ask one more question, Prabhuji?
Yeah, now at last the students decided to start asking questions.
Prabhuji, when I start to read Bhagavad-gita, I usually read for 2 days and the third day I won't read it actually. I just want to gain interest in reading Bhagavad-gita and Bhagavatam. Can you please help us?
You join one of our online reading groups. You can ask Vangshi Krishna Prabhu here about that. Okay, I'll finish there.